Hi, everybody. Matt Bernier with the DRF Bet Sunday race of the day for February the 25th. It's race number 9 from Sunland Park, the $100,000 Mind That Bird Derby. This is the local prep for the Sunland Park Derby, which we'll see upcoming shortly, which is a Kentucky Derby prep race. Before we dive into the race, I'd encourage you to head on over to DRF Bets and check out this promo code and this deal that we've got for you. Up to a $200 free bet. No deposit is required. DRF.com/join is the address. The promo code is FreeBet09. Let's take a look at the field of 3-year-olds that will be going a mile and a 16th at Sunland Park Sunday afternoon in the Mind That Bird Derby. The number 1 Re-Ride is a horse for Steve Asmussen, who is most recently a winner of a stakes race down at Delta Downs. That's the big drama. He earned a 75 buyer that day. I still have no idea how he won the photo finish. He pressed the pace throughout. It looked like he was completely done. He shortened badly. That was going 7/8 of a mile, but you know it's a bull ring down at Delta. And somehow he won the photo. I still don't know how he actually got his nose down ahead of Double Star, who was eventually disqualified and placed third. But all things considered, I suppose off the layoff, it was a good enough effort. The runner-up, or the horse that was moved back via disqualification, Double Star, he came back to earn a 57 in his next start. The third-place finisher that was moved up earned a 77 in his next start. So the field that he beat that day, not great, but not terrible. It at least gives him a puncher's chance in a race like this. If you do like this horse, we do have a negative formulator fact for Steve Asmussen. Not a huge sample size, but something to chew on a little bit. Past 5 years, winner last out, second after the layoff in a non-graded stakes event, 1 for 12, 5 of them in the money with a 26-cent ROI. Re-Ride is 5-2 on the morning line. The number 2 is Beautiful Game, another Asmussen runner. Exits the Riley Allison Stakes, where a number of common opponents are going to be coming back in this Mind That Bird Derby. All things considered, I don't think this horse was ever truly a threat in that spot. The winner that day, Runaway Ghost, we'll get to momentarily. I thought it was just much the best in there. Beautiful Game ran second because someone had to run second behind this horse. And also, when you look at the entirety of that race, there was a lot of things that happened in the first turn where the horses just lined up about 8 across the track. Breaking from post 4, this horse really didn't have a terrible trip throughout. I think there's an instance where some of these other horses that maybe were a little bit more compromised in that Riley Allison, maybe they're the ones that you want to be more interested in as opposed to a horse like Beautiful Game. Don't want to totally say throw them out as far as exotics are concerned, but I'd be very surprised, even with the paired up buyer tops of 70, if this horse could somehow win this race. The number 3 is Fiend. This is a horse from Miguel Hernandez that a little bit of an interesting runner. You look at the pedigree. The dam was a stakes-winning dirt sprinter, so there's some quality there. Broke the maiden at first asking. This horse is by Bodemeister. The problem is, from a speed figure standpoint, certainly on the slower side of things, the 53 buyer, simply not fast enough. I mentioned the pedigree, though. This horse is a half to Bayard, who was a multiple stakes winner on dirt, so you've got a little bit of quality in there. There's no reason to think that there's not a forward move coming. The problem is it going to be enough of a forward move to truly be a threat in a race like this, particularly when the horse breaking just to his outside is the horse to beat. That's the number 4, Runaway Ghost. Let's take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector, because the Pace Projector has Runaway Ghost on the lead, but you see that red color coding, which suggests that it's a fast pace, and maybe it'll help set things up for horses coming from off the pace and possibly be a little bit on the destructive side to the horses that are forwardly placed. Having said that, Runaway Ghost on paper, according to the Pace Projector, is as loose as he wants. I'm not entirely sure that's how this is going to play out, because this horse, I think he's just very, very sharp. He broke, he went to the lead, but he relaxed very nicely down the backside, and a couple other horses actually headed him and went past him. He was about a length off of it, or a half length, excuse me. And then very calmly, when the rider asked him to go, game was over. He had an 84 buyer. He won by the length of the stretch. His ears were up at the end of it. Visually, I thought he was tremendous. He's 3 of 5 lifetime. Okay, that run 2 starts back to 37 is a bit of a disaster. Guess what? That race came in the Los Alamitos Futurity against the likes of Solomini and McKinsey and Instilled Regard. Arguably 3 of the top 10 or 15 3-year-olds that we have right now as far as the Derby Trail is concerned. Runaway Ghost, 3-1 in the morning line. If you can get 3-1, go and take a loan out, because I just can't imagine that there's a scenario where he goes off at that number. I made him 7-5. I think he's probably going to be closer to that even money 7-5 range than he is 3-1. But if he's 3-1, my goodness, that would be the play of the day on Sunday. Runaway Ghost looks like he's going to be very, very tough in here. The number 5 is Ministers Don't Party for Henry Dominguez. This is a horse that's done some decent things. He's 1 for 5 lifetime. The problem is from a speed figure standpoint, simply not fast enough. Won the career debut essentially in gate-to-wire fashion. Since then has been giving up ground as the calls go on. Unless he goes to the front, I think he's in some deep water. The number 6, Pinpoint, is one of the horses that was carried brutally wide early on in that Riley Allison Stakes most recently. He put in a bit of a bid. He made a serious try to get to the front, and he just flattened out down the lane. A little bit late with the lead change. To me, he's the one that I'm more interested in as opposed to Beautiful Game, who we already talked about, if I'm looking for someone to run second in this race. Because I thought, all things considered, he ran very well. Again, with the wide trip early on, he made a significant bid going into it, and he's just not as talented as Runaway Ghost. If you're taking anyone out of that race, myself anyway, I think it's Pinpoint as opposed to Beautiful Game behind a horse like Runaway Ghost. The number 7, Trigger Warning, is a winner most recently that was in an allowance non-winners of 2 lifetime race. This is a horse that has tried going 2 turns only once in his career. That was at the Fairgrounds in the Lecomte. He was 160 to 1. I'm not going to hold that race against him. He was overmatched. The blinkers went on in that most recent start, and he really woke up in a big way. The interesting thing is going to be to find out where he's positioned, because he's won from pressing the pace. In that most recent start, he won outright on the lead. I don't know that he's fast enough to go on with it. The pace projector has him sitting second off of Runaway Ghost. I think the best chance for this horse to win is to try to go, but at the same time, you know, are the connections just going to be content settling for a piece of this $100,000 purse? We'll find out. I think he's in a little bit of a tough spot if you're thinking of a win candidate. The number 8, Trooper, Miguel Hernandez, does very good work. At the end of the day, I just look at this horse and say he's slow on paper. He's going to need to run the race of his life here, the son of Gemologist. And the outside runner is the number 9, Modern Man. Modern Man also came out of that race that Sphene broke his maiden. They were both debut runners at that point. This horse has a little bit of pedigree. The Dam was a dirt and turf winner. You see he's by Gio Ponti. They paid $37,000 for this horse. And when you consider that Gio Ponti stands for 5, so they clearly thought there was something here. He was a little bit slow into stride. He trailed. He saved some ground. He came on with a nice run. I thought he galloped out well. He and Sphene, I think, are interesting ones to consider using underneath, but I at the end of the day, I just don't think they're quite as good as the big boy in here, and that leads us to the pick in this spot. I think I've made it pretty clear. I think Runaway Ghost, not only do I think he's the horse to beat strictly in this race, and I think that there's something here, I think he might actually be okay. I think he might be. I'm not suggesting he's going to be a threat for a race like the Santa Anita Derby, but you would imagine if he gets through this race on Sunday, he'll go on to the Sunland Park Derby. If he performs well there, who knows? Maybe it is a race like the Kentucky Derby that comes up, and if it's not the Kentucky Derby, maybe it's the Preakness, or they choose to go some other route. But I think this horse has some ability. He's really done nothing wrong in his career with the exception of that low Sal Futurity. And again, I'm not going to hold that against him, considering he faced arguably 3 of the best 3-year-olds of his crop. So for me, it's Runaway Ghost. If I'm looking to use anyone else underneath, it would probably be the 6, Pinpoint, simply because of that nightmarish trip that he had early on, and he did make a legitimate bid throughout the middle portions of that race. So 4-6 for me in the 9th at Sunland Park on Sunday, your DRF Bets race of the day. Again, DRF Bets, the way to play this race. Head on over. You get a free bet, $200. No deposit is required. DRF.com/join is the address, and the promo code is FREEBET09. The Sunday DRF Bets race of the day, the Mind That Bird Derby from Sunland Park. Scheduled post time is 3:55 Mountain. Best of luck.